And you can say the title's only 3 words.
Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Dan.
And this is a Board Game Rundown, and today we're going to do a review of Leaf from Weird City Games. Leaf plays 1 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes. That's probably accurate.
Pretty accurate.
Even with Teach, this went pretty quick.
Yeah.
In Leaf, we are like spirits of nature, and we are guiding these leaves as they fall to the forest floor. We're growing mushrooms. We're collecting sets of animals, which then we are going to hide in our winter den so that we can score them for points later and not eat them.
Well,
Okay. And how do you do that, you might ask? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to have a hand of these leaf cards. You're going to start off with a couple, and you're going to play your leaf card, and you're going to select that leaf from the tableau over there. Then the real fun part comes in, where let's just say that I'd actually played this leaf card. You're going to now try to connect this leaf somewhere in the pile, and what we're trying to do is these little tips here have little highlighted edges, and we are going to make them touch tips somewhere already in the leaf pile. There we go. Look at that. That's not bad, right?
it's pretty good.
So you're going to get an action for each tip that is touching, and you're going to gain an action of the leaf that you're touching tips with. So that's got a little paw print on it. So that's a animal action. It's going to let me draw an animal card from the tableau or top deck. And I would get to do that twice because I've got 2 tips touching there. And then I have 2 tips also touching a mushroom. It's going to let me take one of my mushrooms and put it on a leaf. You start off with a baby mushroom, and you will eventually want to make them into adult mushrooms. So I could place, because I've got 2, I could place 2 baby mushrooms, or I could place 1 adult mushroom, because it would be 1, 2, essentially. Because anytime you have a mushroom action, you can spend one of those mushroom actions to make one of your mushrooms grow up. If I had played 2 of the same card while I played that leaf, I could also place place a baby mushroom directly on that leaf as it lands. Other actions that you can do, there might be the sun action, which will give you sun tokens, which are over there. Sweet. Then there's the brown over here. That's the tree. That's going to let your squirrel move up that tree track. You're going to get points for being the highest or second highest up the tree, but you're also going to, there's icons on there, so you're also going to gain whatever you're crossing as you go. And there are some alternating paths, and you do hop over other people that are ahead of you on the track. So you might be able to advance quicker, right? Yeah, a little faster. And then, yeah, red is grow a mushroom. The yellow is the sun token, brown. So we've covered them all. I mean, that's basically the game.
Crux, yeah.
You can spend sun tokens to advance the season marker. And when you do that, you're going to cover. You spend 3, you advance it, and you're going to gain the acorns that you cover. Acorns are those are your victory points at the end of the game. If we cover, or if we go across a frost, you're going to take 1 set of your animals up here in your tableau, and you're going to basically secret them away into your winter den. And there is scoring based on how big of sets that you have. You're only ever going to be able to do that 3 times in a game. So be wary of that. There's a couple of different strategies you might be able to do, whether you keep trying to get the same animal. I feel like there's more points if you can get varieties of 3. That's probably the best.
Probably the best. Yields the most points.
Right. And then once we have gotten to winter, you finish that round. And then everybody's going to get 1 more action that they do. And then you'll get 1 final frost phase, which is shown here by the snowflakes. And then you score up all your points. And the points are going to be from connected run of your adult mushrooms. So the bigger the run, the more points you're going to get for that. Highest on the tree over there. Animals in your winter den. And then your remaining sun tokens and leaf cards. Those are basically a half point each in any combination. So you just 2 in any combination is worth a point each at the end of the game.
Yep.
First tiebreaker is most sun and leaf cards left over also, right?
Yep.
And that's the only tiebreaker. Other than that, you share a win.
The first and only.
And last.
All right, guys. Just so you know, this was sent to us by Weird City Games for review. But like always, we're going to be honest about our experiences with it. Dan, why don't you tell me what you thought about Leaf?
So the first thing I thought of immediately was for
Trees.
some reason.
Oh.
Funny enough, no. I thought of bears and bees.
Battlestar Galactica.
No, so there's a game by Grandpa Bet Games called Bears and Bees.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
for some reason, I just had that feeling
Okay.
while doing because that game is you're lining up, you're putting stuff on the table, and you're lining up a bunch of edges and getting stuff depending on what you're lining up. And the thing that I like about me drawing that comparison was I really, really like looking for next step games. I'm trying to build a step ladder when you're trying to get people into the hobby or just to even play games at game night, like a family member or something. And so we talk about Uno, a beloved game by a lot of people, especially people who aren't super deep into the hobby. They're just like, yeah, fun card game. The Bears and the Bees is a nice next step game. Listen, you want to give them that same experience, but move on to go to that. And then I feel like this is kind of a next step. You're doing a lot of similar things to Bears and Bees, but this is definitely a deeper game. Bears and Bees is just like a half step up from Uno, and
Right.
it's got some fun stuff going on. This feels like an actual like deep thinky game kind of going on here. You're doing this spatial element with lining up stuff. I love spatial stuff. I also really like fall, so that helps. The animals aren't anthropomorphic, so that
helps.
That's an inside joke. But so there was a lot going on here with the set collection and everything that you're trying to balance that with the tree and everything. There was an interesting amount of stuff going on, an interesting balance of low overhead, but interesting decisions. You're sitting there on your turn, and you are limited sometimes by the cards in your hand. I was only able to do the double card play once in the game we played, and it was during the last turn possible.
Yeah.
And it was on the opposite side of the field as all my other mushrooms, so it didn't do anything at all. But that's just how the card draw works, right? You have to, if you really want to take advantage of the free mushrooms, you got to draw a bunch of cards, which would be interesting in seeing how well those play styles actually mesh together. Does drawing a bunch of cards and placing a bunch of mushrooms, is that alone a path to victory? Because one thing that we did see in this game is we all played fairly differently.
Agreed.
And the point spread was barely existed
yeah.
It was
at
tight.
the end of the game.
It
Like,
was a tight game.
Super close game at the end. So that's good. That shows you that the balance is there, built in. They thought about every placement on that tree and stuff, and I really like seeing that kind of effort go into a game design. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is a fun, like, I would still call this family weight, but depending on how thinky you want to get it, there's some depth here. And it was a good time. I wouldn't say that I'm like, oh my goodness, top 10 games I've ever played, but I had a fun time with this, and I think that people in general are going to like this game.
Yeah. Bobby, what do you think?
I agree with Dan. I had a good time. I enjoyed the game. I think people have fun playing this game. I don't feel the need to rush out and get it. If Tim wants to bring it out and play it, I would by all means play the game again. I totally forgot about the mushrooms needing to be adult before they would score points. So that was something that you should want to keep in mind. Also, the board is double-sided. So if you're playing one or two players, you flip it over, and it makes the fewer seasons that you have to change before you get to the end there. So, I always appreciate that when it's like it changes from like player counts, because a lot of times you're playing a game and it's like, oh, from 4 to 5 players, nothing changes. Okay, well, everything just got way tighter and it's not as fun. But that, I would think, adjust the game length so it's not like taking too long for one or two people to finish the game.
Right.
The art on the cards.
Sure.
Yeah,
I like it. I mean, it's a style.
It is a style.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, not necessarily for me, but like they are what they are. Like, oh, it's a squirrel, you can tell it's a squirrel. Oh, it's a porcupine, you can tell it's a porcupine. It's fine. I do really enjoy the spatial element of this, the trying to line up as many and touch as many tips as you can, to try to get as many actions as you can. I was trying to go by it initially because, like, you get a penalty. If you don't have a leaf card in your hand to play, you're going to get a -3 chip if you don't have a leaf card. So I was trying to make sure I always had a selection for leaf cards at the beginning. And so I was having 3, 4, 5 cards in my hand all the time, and I was able to get more of the mushroom combos off at the beginning. But then toward the end, I was like, okay, I'm not going to focus on that as much. I want to try to get up that tree because I wanted to chase Dan down, but I couldn't quite get up there fast enough to chase him down. But it was really close. I was surprised at how balanced everything was, because I thought I was like way ahead, but then Tim's little end game thing with his huge mushroom trail got him a bunch of points and caught him back up.
And I had a lot. I was really good on the animals.
Yeah,
too.
I did pretty good too. Like, I had a decent amount. I wasn't quite as good as yours, but I had a pretty decent amount with my denned animals, I believe it was called. But no, it's fun. And I think that again, I agree with Dan that the family weight kind of thing. Like, I think this is something that you could play with, like, 10, 12, 15-year-olds, and but also like gamers who like spatial puzzles will enjoy trying to connect those leaves together. And the colors don't matter. So they kept saying brown and red didn't really matter so much because it's got icons. Thank you.
They are a little hard to see from a distance, but yeah, that doesn't matter too much. One last thing I wanted to mention, because it's the one specific thing I wanted to say because I thought it was really cool. Sorry if we're going to take everything you want to talk about.
Let's go for it.
I love that the end game is player controlled. So players control when they push the game forward. And so you can have this interesting push-pull of like, two players don't want the game to end because one player's clearing the lead and they're trying to play their sons to push toward the end, but it's going to take longer to do that if they're the only person doing it. Right. Meanwhile, you get close to the end of the game, and now you got to make that decision like, hey, I could turn this in for some extra points, but am I really ready to end the game? I really like when end game, and it's not just end game, it's the entire flow of the game is completely player controlled. Yeah. Obviously, there are some redundancies built in, like if you run out of a certain amount of leaf cards or leaf placements and stuff, that will end the game and stuff. Like, obviously, it's not going to hold you captive forever. Right. But in general, the players control when you end the round, basically, and like move forward. And I just think that's a really, really good way for games, especially of this weight and stuff, to handle that. I really, really like when games implement that. So I just wanted to mention that specifically.
Yep.
No, that's good.
Agreed. Yeah, I definitely prefer a player-controlled end of game as compared to like, okay, well, you have 3 workers and you have 5 rounds, so 15 actions, go. And it's like, because then you're trying to optimize what are the best 15 actions in the game. And to me, that's not as fun as like, how can I get my engine going and doing all these types of things. And
Yeah, well, and again, right, it gives you some maneuverability. Like I was able to play my strategy pretty much straight through. Everybody, I think, was kind of able to do that. What really made this game like unique and kind of stand out for me, it was the action selection, basically. By I've got this leaf and I need to play it, and I'm trying to touch as many tips as I can to optimize that action. But at the same time, it's like I'm not just limited to right here. I can go anywhere on the outside, right? Yeah. And it only gets bigger and crazier. You know what I mean? And
I think the only rule is 2 tips have to be
2
touching,
tips,
right? At
least.
So.
And then you can almost always get 2 tips to touch relatively
easily. It just stops
easily.
you from like building a dumb thing.
Right.
Like chaining out this thing 1 tip at a time.
Yeah, like ding, like what? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, would you really want just 1 action anyway? Probably not.
No, right. But I really thought that was really cool. I appreciated all of because a lot of times I just had like 1 or 2 cards in my hand. So I knew, like, I'm just looking at the leaf type, not even, or the shape, and not even like the action that it's going to give the next player, even though you could pay attention to that if you want.
I would.
But like, so it's like, okay, where is this leaf going to get me what I need, right? And you start looking at that, because it's like, oh, well, I need mushrooms, or I'm trying to get up the tree. And I just thought it was really cool because you could really, without like too much AP, because there's only so many choices, and then you're just, I mean, I probably spent as much time just kind of shifting it around, but it never like drug out. It never overstayed its welcome. It still felt really brisk. And I thought that was really cool.
Like a brisk fall breeze.
Right before the frost. But yeah, I like that, like the guy said, we can sort of mitigate this here too, pushing end game, things like that. Like I was watching Bob build up a stack of points. I knew I knew I was going to have a hard time catching him, but at the same time, I didn't want to keep giving him the opportunity. So I pushed that end game over the winner to trigger the end, and with hope of being able to stop him from at least just piling and piling and piling on. And it actually allowed me to get close enough to tie him. But like Dan wasn't far behind. I mean, it was like a 4-point spread, 3-point spread between all of us.
Yeah, something like that.
4 points.
After all the end game scoring,
and Bob had way more points, and then Dan and I had all these like end game points that we came up with, which was really cool, and it felt good because at first it's like, well, I'm getting smoked, but then like I got 20 something points just from the end game scoring,
right?
and it again, it felt good, it felt satisfying, really interesting choices. I love, like, I was really worried when I first got this out, like it's like, oh, the colors. Like the colors are going to be tough. But then I realized, we've got the iconography on here, and the iconography is really good throughout this whole game. I like the art on the cards, but I get it. Art is subjective. You love it, you don't, whatever. And not everything is the most incredible stuff. Should it be anthropomorphic, though?
Get the hell out of here.
But they just do a good job. They do a really good job. I think the production design is really neat. I think that for a game like this, if you've got it out at a convention, people are going to be like, oh, what's that? You know, people are going to want to see.
It takes up more table space than you think.
It's a little bit of
when you're first starting it. We had to shift stuff like 3 times.
Pushing things away, pushing things away.
Yeah.
You know, I know this got played in a different manner, but like, just think if this was played at the end. Action, 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 action. Like, you're getting so many actions from that one being played down right there. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just really cool things you can do and pull off some neat combos. There was definitely times where I played a card and I got more stuff than I thought I was going to because I was able to make it fit just a little bit better. And it's like, wow, okay. And again, that feels good because everybody's building off the same engine. You know what I mean? It's not just... You know, Bob's got a cool little engine over here.
It's not just that, but you're usually the gear that you're putting into the engine usually benefits everyone other than you.
Also true,
you know what I'm saying?
Because
like,
they can get sun tokens if they've got the mushrooms
like
on
the leaf that you're putting out. You're not getting anything from. Everyone else is.
Everybody else.
You're
is
getting
gonna...
stuff off the ones you're like touching with. So that's interesting too. It's like, hey guys, here's a useful gear for you that I'm just giving you guys.
Right.
You know?
I hate you all. Don't ruin everything.
Which is why the double card instantly putting a mushroom on that card is nice because you're basically saying at least I'll get something.
Right.
Somebody touch.
They're gonna build off of it. Yeah. So it does a lot of really cool things. I was very very happy with this. I think it's really good. Is it game of the year? No, but here's the thing though: is I don't love nature themed games generally, and like this is a million times better for me than Cascadia. Like,
oh yeah, you do hate that one.
I do.
I was looking at the box art, and like it looks a lot like Reef.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
With the type of like, you know, the imagery and the font.
And Jello Rizza, is that the same artist? You know?
No, I didn't look at the artist, but I was looking at the production people, and it was somebody different. That's why I was over here looking up. I was just on my phone.
But the theme, the aesthetic, and everything for a theme that I usually just am not interested in at all, the gameplay I thought was really good, and I enjoyed trying to get the different sets of animals. I thought that was cool. I mean, clearly that was like my. That was what got me a lot of my points, right? I was going for trying to get it worked out really well. I was able to get a bunch kind of early, and then it just
4 at the end of that last round.
I know,
a bunch of cards.
I know, it was fun. But yeah, I thought Leaf was pretty good. You incepted me.
I did.
But yeah, all right, guys, let's give this a ranking. Dan.
Hi. Thanks for that Patreon ad. So we're going to give this game a 1 out of 10 individually because we all have our own personal subjective takes. Then we're going to average them all at the end to see what Board Game Rundown gives it in general on Discord and Board Game Geek and stuff like that. There was something in my eye, and it's killing me. Sorry.
Let's get that score out of your eye then first. What's your?
There was one other thing I wanted to mention.
Too late.
Can't remember what it is right now.
That section's over.
I'm gonna fall on a 7. That's my little average score that I give out for a game that I think is good that I might not be in love with. I think it is a well done game. I think people are going to like this, and I actually think I would go so far as to say, I guess this is not like breaking the mold by saying this, because like you said, and I kind of was joking about earlier, but you said like it's not going to be my number one game or anything, right? But if someone said Leaf was their number one game, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, I see it. I see what the game offers that someone could love that much. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's good, and I think most people are going to enjoy their play.
Agreed. Bobby.
Dan is right. A game that I enjoy, that I would definitely play again, but I don't necessarily feel like I have to run out and buy, is a 7. So this game for me is a 7.
Yeah, it's a 7.5 for me. I think it's really good. It's solid, and this is a wonderful game to have in your collection as either a take to family gatherings, especially if they're not hardcore gamers like you might be. This is a great game to take to meetups and game nights because it plays fast. It's easy to teach. So if you're waiting for a table to free up, you can play this. It's got nice table presence. People will want to stop and see it and ask you questions about it. You'll get it played. You'll get this game played.
I'm interested in if these chit leaves are thick enough to withstand like a light breeze and stuff, because I could totally see, because everything in this game, like the cards that you bank can get tucked under your player board thingy, you know, this thing that can hold that down, and the rest are in your hand. And so I could see you playing this on like a picnic table kind of thing, you know,
Sure.
and having like the fall leaves on the
Yeah.
table. It's just that are these heavy enough? I'm not sure, but they are pretty
Maybe.
good. So
Maybe.
anyway, just thought of that.
So if you take all of our scores and you add them together, 7.2. It's
Nice.
pretty good.
Yeah, solid outing.
Yeah.
This is we would all recommend this game.
Yep.
And that's not nothing
Yeah.
because we do have a lot of different tastes. Dan, I actually saw Dan smile like 2 times while we played it. So
It's crazy.
I
Dan
love
doesn't even like
spatial
that.
things.
I knew
he
we were in
does.
trouble. All right, guys. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and doing all those things. Let us know in the comments if you played Leaf. If you would like to support the show financially, we do have a Patreon if you want to help us keep continuing to make awesome, fun content. But honestly, even just liking and subscribing and interacting with us is a great way to help support us and keep us going. We get very excited when people comment, and we have a very active Discord where sometimes we don't even do anything because everybody else is having conversations with each other, and we just kind of chime in like, oh yeah, I like that too. And they're like, shut up. I'm talking to people I like.
Yeah.
So we've got a really nice community going on over there as well. Anything else, guys, before we sign off?
Nope. Don't think so.
No, I've been trying to make a Firefly Leaf on the Wind, watch how I soar joke this whole
Too
time.
soon, Dan.
and Haven't been able
soon.
to. No, it's not.
Only if you die at the end.
haven't been able to fit it in. Sorry.
We'll get there. All right, guys, for the board game rundown, I've been Tim.
Bob.
Dan.